In this video, we're going to show you how to install the alternator on your Jeep Grand Cherokee located on the lower passenger side of your engine. To access your battery, you want to go and open up the back passenger door, slide the passenger front seat forward, and access this panel right here. Put your hands underneath this little flap and lift up. On the front side of this panel is going to be two more clips further up. So slide your hand up underneath and pop those up. Go ahead and remove that panel and set it aside. We're going to use a 10mm socket to loosen the ground terminal here. Go ahead and wiggle that terminal free. Go ahead and lift up on our engine cover here. Set that aside. Using a flathead screwdriver, loosen the hose clamp, securing the air intake tube to the airbox. And go ahead and separate that. Now, just in front of the throttle body, there is going to be an air intake temp sensor here. You can twist this and remove it. We do want to protect that sensor, so the best option is to use your little flathead pocket screwdriver, press in on this little tab, and disconnect the connector to it. Loosen the hose clamp, securing the air intake tube to the throttle body. We're using a 5/16 shallow socket. With that loose, I'm going to go ahead and lift up on our intake and pull this off. Follow the tube back to our mid portion right here, and we're going to lift up on this here, popping this out of a rubber grommet, and then we can remove the whole unit. Set it aside. Using a 3/8 ratchet or breaker bar, go ahead and insert the end into the tensioner and push down. This is going to relieve tension on our belt. Go ahead and pull that off and release that. Pull that belt down and off and set it aside. Using a 13mm socket on your ratchet, the alternator has two retaining bolts on the top. Once those are loose, I'm going to switch over to my electric ratchet here and zip those out. On the bottom of the alternator, we have a harness right here that comes up. There's a nut holding it onto the stud, so we're going to use our 13mm. Now underneath, we have that stud, 13mm deep socket. Now I'm going to kind of position this here. We can gain access to the wires on the back side of that alternator. On the back side of our alternator, we have a plastic cover right here covering the battery wire to this. We want to go ahead and pop this off. Now, sometimes you can pop it off by hand. There's not a lot of room to get down in there, so we're just going to use a little screwdriver to go ahead and pop this up. There it is. and it exposes a nut on the back side. And use our 13mm socket on our ratchet, and we want to loosen this. Go ahead and remove that nut, set that aside, remove the wire from the alternator. Now on the back here, we also have an electrical connector that has a red lock clip on there. I want to lift up on this red lock clip. Lift that up and then push down on that center tab and wiggle this connector off. Here we go. Grab that alternator and pull it out. Lower the alternator down, and we're just going to set it into the same position that the other one was in. Going to look around for that wiring harness. Going to line up our electrical connector here. Press it in. You're going to feel it and hear it snap in, and then press that red lock tab down. Now we want to install our battery terminal lug here. So we're going to lift up the alternator a little bit, feed that wire into place. Once we have that wire on there, we're going to reach around and get that nut started on there. All right, now we have our nut installed on the stud here, and we have the wire, the battery wire with the lug on it. Now on the back side of the alternator, right here and on the other side are little notches. Our positive battery cable lug has a little tab here and a tab on the other side. So what I have to do is pick up the alternator, rotate the harness so that these tabs go into these notches on the back. That'll lock it into place, and then we'll go ahead and secure the nut. I do want to make sure that is good and tight, so I'm going to just put my wrench on there, snug that down just a little bit more, line up our plastic cap, pop that into place. Now position our alternator. Now that we have one bolt started, we'll go ahead and install the upper rearward bolt. We'll now install our lower bolt. Now, if you have the ability to do so, you want to torque these down to 18 foot-pounds, which is snug, not super tight, but snug. I'm going to install our ground strap, install the nut on there. You want to tighten this down. Snug that down. Install your belt. And what you want to do is make sure that that belt is routed in the ribs of all the pulleys. I'm going to hold it over the alternator. release that. Go around all of your pulleys. Make sure that they're on. And my upper pulley, it's not on. There we go. Otherwise, when you start it up, it could shred that belt or throw it off, cause an issue. Okay, our belt is completely seated on everything. Install your air intake. I'm going to install the intake on the throttle body. Wiggle that on. Bring our air intake tube over to the air box. Slide that into place. Now our air intake area has a little plastic stud on the bottom. Just want to line that up and push it into the grommet. There it is. You'll feel it seat in. Tighten down the hose clamp for the air box. Tighten down the hose clamp on the throttle body side. Snug that down. Now right beside it we have the air temp sensor connector. I'm going to line that up and push that on. You're going to feel it and hear it click into place. Install the upper lid. You want to install these plastic studs. There's a few of them around the top of the engine that pop into the rubber grommets on the upper plenum here. So if you simply line up that front one, push it down, the rest of them line up. Just tap that down. Reconnect the ground terminal. Slide that down into place. And let's go ahead and tighten down the terminal nut here. Make sure that's good and snug. Give that terminal a little wiggle. Make sure that is locked on pretty good. So now go ahead and install the lid. Now on the bottom of the lid here, you're going to have 4 of these little tabs here. I want to go ahead and line those up. Once we get our 2 front ones lined up, it'll make it easy for the front ones to line up as well. Snap those down, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.